Hello once again. It is a new week. New set of episodes with Spin Cycle, Andrew Southwick, and R.C. Williams with you here. Of course, I'm continuing my travels. You never know where I'm going to show up again. Last week, I got into my studio for a hot minute, and then I had to leave again. And so a little bit, we'll be back to normal and doing some, hopefully doing some things that will upgrade some of the production and things like that. So we're looking forward to that. But thank you to those of you who check us out, whether on the live stream and you happen to see us, or at on demand later on any of our socials. So we certainly appreciate that. RC, how's the weekend treating you? I will tell you what, I know this is not news or anything, but I'm having a little, I'm having a hard time this year because now I'm originally from Washington State, and while I'm certainly a Floridian now, but I can't, I still love my Seattle sports. And, if anybody's watched Culture Crossroads, RC's a San Francisco 49ers fan. I don't hold that against them. We still welcome them. We're Big Tent here. But I also like the Seattle Mariners. And I got to tell you, last season was awesome. This season is terrible. My Mariners got swept by the Rays at home and looked bad doing it. And so this was a rough weekend because I started off this season with World Series aspirations, and now I don't even know what aspirations are left. It's just one of those things. So, and of course, we're going to talk about the nonsense going on all around the world. So, man, I'm having a tough time. I hope your weekend was better than mine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, right.
That was good.
Yeah.
It was good, Andrew. We had quite the episode of Culture Crossroads last night. It was good to be back with the energy. We were just talking before we started here today. You guys need to go back and watch Culture Crossroads from last night. We covered a lot of ground on that, but good weekend, man. It's good to be back in the saddle though with the spin cycle.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's get to it here. Story number one. Netanyahu rejects a Trump Gaza plan, and Iran puts a price on the Strait of Hormuz. And it's clear when it comes to Iran that they see the Strait of Hormuz as this is their leverage point, and they might be right. But I want to start with the Netanyahu rejecting the Gaza plan, because this is the first time in all of these Middle East upheavals and wars and things that we've seen really on the global stage Netanyahu breaking from Trump. And President Trump has a 15-point Gaza roadmap calling for Hamas disarmament, coupled with phased Israeli withdrawals. Excuse me. It's got an international stabilization force. This is all according to a Reuters report. And eventually a U.S.-backed Palestinian technocratic administration. Good luck with that. Hamas has indicated support for this. Of course they do. And one of the reasons why there's no, according to Netanyahu in Israel, there is no definition as to what disarmament means. And also, it's a matter of timing. Israel's going to want Gaza to disarm first before they do. Israel's going to want Hamas to get out of Gaza first before they do. And look, on balance, I can understand that. And similar with some of what they're doing in Lebanon as well. I know they being Israel. I know that the cost of that is high, but when you have enemies all around you, and you're talking about any kind of agreement, you want to make sure your enemy puts down their weapon before you do. It's sort of like what Clint Eastwood said about gun control, or at least the quote is attributed to Clint Eastwood, where he said, "Yeah, I like gun control. If there's a gun in the room, I want to be in control of it." And so that makes sense. Netanyahu rejected the sequencing. His position really is Hamas fully disarms first, Israel withdraws afterward. Israel doesn't want to surrender the military control based merely on a promise that Hamas will give up its weapons later. And so this is a significant public disagreement between Trump and Netanyahu. And Netanyahu is also heading toward an October election, just as we're heading toward November midterms. So then it gets all politicky and everything else. But you can see here on the screen, this is what is verified about this disagreement. And really, here's the conservative take on this security first. We don't want to reward coercion. And Congress should be scrutinizing any sanctions relief, because we're also talking about releasing funds, releasing frozen assets, which by the way, Iran wants too. So there's a lot in this, and just looking at it objectively. Oh, and I have to say this too. Because this broke over the weekend, that apparently there was Trump was in conversation with someone, and this was leaked from the White House, that Trump would be willing to even exit, for example, Iran without a nuclear deal if they could just find a way to get out of it. So all the talk about Iran can't have nukes, and this is why we're paying more, and all this other stuff. Well, there are other forces at play in this region, and I think a lot of it is Trump is trying to get out. And obviously it would be good to be out, but again, are we going to get out again like Afghanistan and without a victory? Of course, we haven't defined what a victory is either. Anyway, RC, what do you make of this?
Wow. So tomorrow's news 3 months ago, here we are again. Did we not say, I mean, I'll even go all the way back kind of to the origin of this, and then the infamous CPAC live on War Room, where I got cut off, fastest go to break in the history of man, saying this exact thing, right? When you're in the ring with a bum, you got to knock him out in the first round. If you let him hang around, he will hurt you. And so now the proper answer is, look, I need an off ramp here. I got to get out, right? So you have almost a domino effect, it feels like, Andrew. So Iran's going to do what they're going to do, right? Of course, they're going to try to negotiate with the Strait of Hormuz, because you didn't deal with them. And they want their money released, right? So part number two. And I don't think they would be doing that. A lot of times they'll talk out of the side of their mouth just for the sake of doing it. But this time they seem to be pretty insistent and pretty persistent on two things: Hormuz and their money, which means they feel like they have enough leverage to get one or both. And I think some of that is starting to play out. The thing with Israel, I mean, yeah, of course, right? I can't say that I disagree with Netanyahu's position. Like, I'm not going to put down the only thing defending myself, so that someone who generally is a group wants to do me harm has free reign to do so, right? Because I don't think there were any assurances in that deal or guarantees that Hamas would do that. It was just, hey, you put yours down, they'll put theirs down, and then let's get you out of there. Well, there's got to be some assurances, right? And I agree with very little of what Netanyahu says or does, or who he is, right? Because I know who he is at the core. That said, he's got a job to do, and he's working to do it in the best interest of Israel. I can't argue with that. I just think we handled this whole thing, Andrew, so badly. Just generally speaking, it seems like it's Keystone Cops, or like the Benny Hill show, right? It just seemed like we're just moving around like that.
We're to the soundtrack of Yakety Sax. Yeah.
Yes, pretty much.
Focusing on Iran just for a second, Iran has also released a set of demands to reopen Hormuz and all this. Part of those, again, according to Reuters, Iran wants the official language is compensation for damage caused by U.S. Israeli attacks. That's reparations. They want to be paid back for all that. They want sanctions relief, meaning leave us alone. They want release of frozen Iranian assets. That's billions of dollars. They want an end to what Tehran describes as the American naval blockade, and then an end to American military threats and aggression against Iran and its allies. There is also a note in there that Iran wants there to be no, what was the word, insulting of Iran. Now, I don't know if that even means, does that include social media? Like, how much, speech police do they want, or what qualifies as an insult? But these are the list of demands that Iran is wanting. And, so look, we talked about, with, I think being in support of Israel as a nation and Israel as a people, you don't have to be, pro-war to do that. You can, and you don't have to necessarily be pro-Israeli government. You can believe, as you said, that Netanyahu has legitimate concerns in a vacuum on, you want me to put down my arms before my enemies do? Forget that. We all would do that. Every one of us would take that position. But we can at the same time be opposed to just this endless drip of war. And we're now to a point now, I believe the latest poll showed more than 70% in Americans. We've soured on this because we thought, we saw Operation, what was it, Midnight Hammer. We thought, okay, good, we're in there, get in, get out, and we're done. And this was, again, 2 weeks to slow the spread, 4 weeks to slow the spread, 2 months to slow the spread. Now we're into the summer. Now we're going into November. Then it's, hey, if you don't like paying higher prices, you are not a patriot. We need to pay higher prices so that Iran doesn't get a nuke, because we can't have Iran having a nuke. Then we find out, well, maybe they can if we can find a way to get out of this thing. It vacillates one side to the next. Then you've got, at the same time, you did hear about Trump's $100,000 a month buy-in so that you can get his Truth Social posts before they go public. Because, hey, then and one of the benefits of that is that, well, then you might be able to look at what's buying and selling in the stock market there. $100,000 a month, not a bad investment for that kind of and it's not really insider information because Trump is just making a post, but we know that affects the markets too. So this whole thing has just the ick of, we didn't go in, we didn't count the cost before we went in. We didn't have a clear exit strategy. Once again, we haven't defined what victory is. The goalpost keeps moving whenever we talk about what a victory is. And we know that there's grift and corruption on top of that all around. I mean, a ton of it to go around. And most of America is just like, we got to get out of here. We have stuff we have to fix here. We need to focus here. I'll give you the last word.
Wow. So here's the thing I want people to think about. I was just chuckling because I'm so over the circus, right? If you would have admitted beforehand you didn't know what you were doing or how we were going to get out, you would have gotten a pass from the American people and we could have gotten out of this thing in some way. But now you're still going to let Iran, when this is all said and done, even if you agree to everything, they're still going to charge toll with the Strait of Hormuz, right? They're still going to charge a VIG because they're gangsters. That's what they do. Here's what I want people to keep in mind. As this goes, and we get out, or however this goes down, I want you to remember how this is perceived by the world. The dominant power for the last 100+ years of world history is basically hobbled and humbled. How do you think that's going to play to the world stage? When these people see weakness, because world politics is like the penitentiary, Andrew. I've said that on this show. I've said it on Culture Crossroads. I say it all the time. Don't think that people or groups won't keep testing, because when they sense weakness, they're going to try to take your commissary, as they say, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think we're also seeing that because this mass confusion, supposedly it was a misdirection in 6,422,804 degree chess. But now we just see it's a bunch of bupkis and foolishness. Yeah. How is that going to play for the next thing that we're dealing with? Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's a question to ask.
Oh my gosh. New developments every day. And of course, we will keep you updated as best we can. But again, we're looking at this as best we can. Just here's the actual fact. We're not spinning it, trying not to spin it at least one way or another, because I think most of us want this to be over. And since we're in this, we do want to win. We don't want the bad guys to win. We know that the bad guys are Iran. We know that. Israel may not be, the Israeli government may not be the most tidy, the purest driven snow that there can be, but Iran is certainly the bad guys. They're in cahoots with the other bad guys in the world. We certainly don't want to Afghanistan them and leave them with more billions of our weaponry and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, all right, moving on. Next story, WNBA. I don't know if it's a vendetta against Caitlin Clark. I think that the WNBA, and I saw a post by Skip Bayless, the broadcaster and sports journalist. And while if you are a sports fan, you certainly know who he is, and his takes are, by many sports fans, questionable at best. I know I don't necessarily agree with his views on sports all that much, but this one I do. And he mentioned in a lengthy post and actually said, the WNBA has just become so woke and really racist, and it's obvious. And he said that it's made the WNBA unwatchable. The WNBA had an opportunity with Caitlin Clark to actually make a name for themselves and their brand and establish themselves as a viable brand in America. Instead, because Caitlin Clark is white, let's be honest, The WNBA hated that. They could not have that. So then you have, for example, the whole Alyssa Thomas, Caitlin Clark thing, which was just this year. Phoenix Mercury star Alyssa Thomas um, effectively, what was it? A throat punch, a throat elbow punch, something like that
Mm-hmm.
to Clark's throat. And officials no called that. They didn't call a foul at all. Throat punch, totally fine. After reviewing the play, the WNBA itself determined that Thomas had committed a non-basketball act. Really, punching somebody in the throat qualifies as a non-basketball act? I would think so. Huh. And upgraded it to flagrant true, and she got a suspension for 1 game. So that's the league admitting they messed up. It's not isolated. CBS Sports examined the treatment of Caitlin Clark and identified 7 notable incidents just from this season: 4 non-basketball plays and 3 landing space fouls. 2 were originally ruled flagrant. 3 were later upgraded afterwards. If Caitlin Clark was not white, they'd be carrying her on the shoulders and running around. But they couldn't handle the fact that Caitlin Clark came out of college and was drafted, and that a white person could possibly be the face of the WNBA franchise. Well, then you have Sophie Cunningham now, who has said that Clark is being targeted for this, and she's in her own thing. Of course, Sophie Cunningham recently coming out saying that, also biological dudes should not be playing in women's sports, and certainly not in the WNBA. No, they shouldn't. They're biological dudes. If they want to cosplay as a girl, I guess that's up to them. That doesn't make them women. Nonetheless, so then she gets heat for that. Well, just recently, Sophie Cunningham herself was clotheslined in the throat and the face. That clip has been going around. And here again, Cunningham is white. She's a teammate of Caitlin Clark, who's also white. I've never seen, and I really think this is what racism looks like. I'll say it. This is what racism looks like. This is what preferential bias based on external features looks like. And the WNBA is carrying this banner, thinking that they're striking a blow, I guess, for equality or rights or whatever the heck. They're not. They're ruining what could have been a viable league. Now they have this stain over them, and when you see the fouls, the attacks that are levied on these 2 particular players, and then you see the non-calls that come after it, then you see the other coaches in press conferences defending the actions of the perpetrators of these fouls. You know that clearly the league, to whatever degree, or the coaches, the players, what have you, that there is a bias against them, and I can't see for what reason other than the color of their skin. It's despicable. Adam Silver, of course, he in fairness, he's the commissioner of the WNBA. He's also the NBA commissioner. He noted that we have to fix our officiating, but this is not an officiating problem. This is a cultural rot problem that has infected the WNBA, and it needs to be done away with. They play basketball, and for crying out loud, if you have a transcendent type of player that will be, that's a household name above any other player in your sport, don't I mean, figuratively speaking, don't put bounties on them and let them be beat up all the time. Allow people to get to know them in different households. And by the way, their fame, their household notoriety will bleed off onto the other players, and you'll start to have people make connections. But now it's like it is woke political theater set to a basketball scenario. What do you think?
So, Andrew, can I channel my inner Archie Bunker and be wholly inappropriate based on current standards here?
Why not?
It drives me nuts that angry Black lesbians who are super racist hate straight white women who are playing in the league and actually have some name recognition and some level of skill. This is freaking insanity. I just had to say it. So what do I have? I have angry Black lesbians who are racist and hate talented white women who are in the league. And the only way for them to express that is not to train harder and play better and show that they're a better basketball player. It's to just throw punches to the throat and clotheslines and all of these things. And then when they get mocked for it by said women, then the whole world blows up. So we've got angry Black lesbians and we've got tricolors. And the tricolors, pick your flavor of I'm mixed in the league that's towing this garbage, right?
Yeah,
The
and
best we can do, Andrew, the best we can do. Adam Silver, Skeletor, Part 2, says, we need to improve our officiating. Oh my God. Okay, sure. Listen, you know what? You can take this thing out to pasture and shoot it whenever's most convenient for you. But my goodness, either do it right or don't do it at all. And we're really at that phase now where it's like, don't do it at all.
And it's unfortunate though too that we just culturally, and I don't think really I think it's advertisers. I think it's a lot of media that try to push, particularly the woke, color bias stuff, and that you can't possibly just be a good player, and who cares what your skin color is? Who cares? Nobody cares. And to be honest, look, I believe in Jesus. I believe that sexuality is and sex is made for marriage and the marriage context, and that any sex outside of the marriage context, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual or otherwise, that's sin. Okay, great. But look, I'm not in control of what anybody does or who they're hanging around with. So, look, if they're going to be gay, then be gay. Just play basketball. Be a good player.
Please.
Yeah, for crying out loud. Play the game. Put a good product out, because then maybe you do have a message that you want to say. And I'm not one of the ones I actually disagree with to a point. I disagree with the idea like just shut up and play basketball and don't talk, because I think any of us, if we have a platform and we use our platforms to share what we believe, so I think they could too. But when you start to define your platform or take away what's a universal and shared experience, and then force people to, if you don't agree with me, then you shouldn't even be watching this program, or I'm going to deliberately insult you and belittle you and that kind of thing, then I think it gets in the way. But if the WNBA were a good product on its own merit, the messages of the activists in the league would get a lot farther. I'm not saying I would agree with them. I probably wouldn't. But it would get a lot farther, and it would be seen a lot better, and it wouldn't look like this is just a hatchet job because we don't like the fact that the best players in this league happen to be white.
Andrew, so what's hilarious to me in the follow-on to this is that Enes Kanter and Royce White are now going to declare for the WNBA draft. Isn't it hilarious that, Juliana talks about this a lot, and she'll probably talk about this story and the variation with the men that are saying they identify as women in her shorts and reels this week. Isn't it interesting that the call for men to stand up to defend women, actually when men stand up and do it, they do it in the best way possible, because it forced the WNBA to either acknowledge or deflect, and they've chosen to deflect so far. But I think it's hilarious. They say, I identify as a woman for the sake of basketball, and so I'm going to go ahead and declare and enter the WNBA draft because that's how I identify. How does that feel when it comes the other way? Yeah, you don't like it so much, do you?
Yeah. Again, just play the game. Play the game. I would love it if there were more leagues, more sports, that there could be year-round sports of things that we can enjoy. We don't have to suffer through terrible off seasons and things like that. Or in the case of my Seattle Mariners, seasons that are basically off seasons. But I digress. Anyway, all right. Last story. I know you got to run RC here pretty quick. Let me bring this to the stage if I can. What's happening here? Okay. I got to remove this. Sorry. There you go. Underneath all the ads, California City declares state of emergency after cyber attack on computer systems. This is from the Los Angeles Times. From the article, the city council for the Swisson. Thank you. I have no idea what that is. Declared a state of emergency. They should really name their city after something on this planet. Never mind. No offense to those who live there. And I come from Washington, where we have, Puyallup and Issaquah. Nobody knows how to say that either. So anyway, all right. And Spokane is always Spokane every time you hear it, but whatever. Declared a state of emergency Saturday after a cyber attack forced the municipality to shut down its information technology network. The attack affected the communication operations of the fire and police departments in the Northern California city, including the routing of 911 calls. That's not a small thing. City officials said in a statement the attack posed no imminent threat to the public, and that except that it disrupted the communications of the first responders and 911 calls. Do we read anymore what we write as journalists? Come on. Okay.
Boy.
They pose no imminent threat to the public, and that all public safety services remain active, except you just said they weren't. So, whatever. The computer network was shut down to contain the threat and preserve evidence for federal investigation. Dispatchers are taking emergency fire calls through the Solano Dispatch Center. So, yeah, they're up and running. We just have to use a different county. Online city services and internal operations remain temporarily unavailable. You just said they were active. As of Sunday morning, while cybersecurity experts investigated the incident and worked to restore systems. Okay, so RC, other than my commentary about the schizophrenic nature of that particular report, you brought this story to our attention here. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, just the corporate speak and the press release speak is out of its mind at this point, right? Is it or isn't it? So,
Yeah.
Sassoon City, it's a place I used to live, by the way. About 50 miles northeast of San Francisco, on the way to Sacramento. It used to be a beautiful city until California, like most things, destroyed it. But the interesting trend here, Andrew, is how many cities are 50,000 or so. This poses a clear and present danger because most of those cities operate in that way. A coordinated attack, we've seen some of that in Minnesota and I think in Michigan as well, potentially from the Iranians. This ransomware thing, we had a sweep of this a couple of years ago and it really hurt some municipalities. I think we need to be paying attention to something like this, right? Because right now you can tell it's a penetration test. They're trying to see what they can do. And cities of this size and others for that matter, like businesses, are very vulnerable to these types of attacks. All it takes is one small phishing hack with one email address. Next thing you know, the hackers have this access to the whole system. They lock it down. They want ransom in crypto. I think we're in a dangerous time, Andrew, and that's why I wanted to bring this story up, is municipalities need to be paying attention to this type of stuff and they need to be vigilant because I think this will be far from the last one, but one of my big concerns is that there's a coordinated attack that takes down a number of these at the same time, and they contain some critical infrastructure for a region that runs through that municipality, which creates all kinds of problems. So I think it's a reminder for us to be vigilant. And if you're running a municipality or you're on a county commission or you're on a city governing board, you need to be paying attention to this stuff and you need to have a plan.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of The Spin Cycle. RC, let the people know where they can find us on demand, online, and elsewhere.
Yeah, so if you go to Culture Crossroads 316 on YouTube, you can find this episode and all the other episodes of the Spin Cycle. Same thing, all things Watchman Action start at watchmanaction.org. You'll find us on all social medias. Just search for Watchman Action. And you can watch the Spin Cycle weeknights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on the brand new 24/7 Watchman Action Network. That is channel 40 on Beck Cable in North Dakota, also streaming on YouTube and Rumble and on watchmanaction.org.
Well, there you have it. Thanks to those of you who hung out with us today on this episode, or if you're watching later on demand. Remember, please like, share, comment, subscribe to the program, and whichever platform you're on, if it's subscribing, if it's following, whatever that is, helps the algorithms. It helps us beat the algorithms and get past the censorship overlords of our technocratic dystopian state, and get the truth out to more and more people. And we certainly appreciate every subscription, every subscriber, every follower. We truly thank you for it. So we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, have a good one.